Okay, so here's your other video, and after this is done, I'm going to rewind it back, and I am going to tell you what you're seeing. Okay, so I'm going to come back like this. Now see these things that are dropping in? Those are the bearings. All right, you've heard the term I spun a bearing. Those are those pieces. They're two pieces, two half circles that are attached, and they surround the shiny parts on the crankshaft, which is what you're looking at right there. Okay, so these are the connecting rods. These are the pistons. In here are the wrist pins. This is the crankshaft that comes through here. There's your spark plugs hovering in midair. On the top is your dual overhead camshafts, also hovering in midair. Okay, so here comes your timing chain and your timing chain guides. All right, so everybody here has heard of VTEC, right? So VTEC is a system that allows the camshafts to become variable. They can rotate separately from the timing chain, and that allows torque curves to be improved and more power. All right, so those are the VTEC, the variable camshaft actuators, so to speak, right? These are the components. They're oil fed, and they allow these camshafts over here to change at a different rate than the engine's turning. These are your followers. They're known as rocker arms. They push the valve open when the lobe of this camshaft push it down. These are your valve springs. These are your valves. All right, so that's the engine block. Now, you got to know that this is a physical impossibility. You can't just cram the engine block over all these things, but that's where it goes. That's the lower crankcase, right? That sits above the oil pan, and that holds the crankshaft into the vehicle. There's the oil pan. There's the head gasket, and the cylinder head just came crashing down too, and you can't do that either, right? This is like magic. Those things now are the caps that hold the camshafts into the cylinder head right here. Okay, that's the timing cover going on. There's our actually timing cover gasket, and there's our timing cover. There's our oil filter adapter and our exhaust manifold with our catalytic converter. Right, there's our throttle body, our heat shields. Now there's something else right in here other than the throttle body. Actually, not the throttle body, but the intake downpipe. This is our turbo, because this car's got a turbo on it. Right, so this is the feed that goes into the turbo, or actually comes out of the turbo. Right, the exhaust gases go through here. That forces the air to be drawn in and up into the engine. There's our oxygen sensor. There's our valve cover, our dipstick, our oil cap, our rear main seal, our clutch, our water outlet. There's our intake manifold. This car's drive-by-wire, so this is the throttle motor right here. Starter, alternator, breather hose. There's our water pump. These are our actual actuators that are fed by the computer to operate those other components inside to move the camshaft. So that's our other VTEC components. Our pulleys, our harmonic balancer. There's our belt tensioner, our air conditioning compressor, our belt. And there we go. Let me get rid of this now. See ya. Go back down to this. Okay, so those are all the things that are moving when that engine is spinning. Now, after this, being that we're not in class and I don't have parts to hand around like I normally would, I kind of put together a couple slides that show you some of the other pieces that are inside an engine. Right, so we got bearings. So those circle things you saw crashing onto the crankshaft, that's what they look like. Right, they're two pieces, they meet together, and then the connecting rod, which is this thing, clamped down on it, that gives it a smooth relationship between the piston and the crankshaft. These are push rods. So if you have an overhead valve engine, it's known as a cam in block engine, this is what pushes up that opens the valves like so, right? There's your push rod. These are your lifters. This is your crankshaft, which looks like that, or your camshaft, that looks like that. As these lobes come around, it pushes this up. These are locked in place, so these act like a lever that pushes the valve down through the valve spring and open and close it. Here's your crankshaft. Here's your piston. Your connecting rod. Your wrist pin would go in there. And here's your bearings and whatnot. Okay. Over here, this is an overhead cam, dual overhead cam, right? Two cams here. These are our valves. Inside these are our valve springs. This is your valve shim. It's a cap. So as this goes down, it pushes this down, opens the valve. Here's your pistons down below. This is your engine block, and you can see your timing chain over here. These are your valves, different sizes for different cars, right? This is your lifter, right? So this is the lifter in an overhead valve engine known as a cam in block, right? Overhead valve. This is an overhead cam engine. This acts like a little hydraulic lifter also. That's to keep the valve train from tapping and knocking, right? I'm going to give you a little bit of a break right now, and we'll come back for part 3.